Warning, the following program is extremely janky. Viewer discretion is advised.
Isn't nepotism like? Aren't you supposed to be like doing someone a favor when you're there's nepotism?
Yeah.
Like, this is like I wouldn't do this to like my worst enemy.
You think I care about bespoke and hair gel? You know what I mean? Like, I do not care, and it's in my for you. No, this is not for me. This is not for me.
Yeah. Just because you're stealing equally from everybody on the internet doesn't mean you're not stealing.
Yeah, you're just stealing even harder.
Yeah, if anything, that's like the apotheosis of stealing from people.
Yes.
It's like, I'm just gonna rob everyone at the same time. That way, who's gonna sue me? Everyone?
This body without a head that's all gut.
Yeah.
It's like, what am I looking at? Like this.
And then some vague exercise plan with like 15 to 20 sit-ups and 20 to 30 push-ups. Sacrifice your soul to Moloch Ball. It's like, I'm lifting weights at work. I'm too busy to go to the gym.
Zuckerberg is gonna pull this guy's spine out like he's Sub-Zero. You know?
Yeah. He's gonna suplex you to another dimension. Sheesh. Hello, and welcome back to the only podcast hosted by the world's slowest male sprinters. Citation needed. I'm your host, Troy.
And I'm Aaron.
And I'm proud of my slow running ability. I am prey if there's ever a hunt.
The hunt is on.
The hunt is on.
The greatest game of all, right?
Yeah, if there's a Hunger Games, I mean, I don't. Do I look hungry? I don't think I do. So anybody who does not get the reference, I'm just going to read a headline for you here. Sports official suspended for nepotism after painfully slow athlete finishes last in 100-meter race. So this happened a couple weeks ago. We kind of missed it, but actually, no, I think it was pretty recent. I think this happened just in the last week or two. But there was I don't know if it was an Olympic event or like a pre-Olympic event or some type of like.
It was occurring in China, whatever it was.
Yeah, it was like some type of national event, and
International.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, and there was this young Somali runner, and she was very, very bad, very, very slow. She finished like a full like 10 seconds behind the person in first place, which 10 seconds for a 100-meter sprint. Like, for context, the person who finished first could have run the 100-meter sprint twice based on that time in the time it took this young woman to finish one lap, like one run. And it turns out that she is a relative or niece or something of like a high up like sports official and like the Somali like youth athletes.
Their official athletic agency, whatever it is.
Yeah, something like that. What do you think about this?
Yeah, it was embarrassing. It was one of those things where I was embarrassed by proxy for her. I didn't watch till the end. I didn't watch until the end until it was like, okay, we're gonna talk about this. I should watch the whole thing probably. And when she did the little skipping thing at the
right
end.
at the end, she does a little skip. Like, it's like, you know, when little kids, like, I don't know how old she is. Maybe this is disrespectful. I apologize, but fuck you. I don't care. But like, you know, when little kids like don't take stuff seriously and they're just like a parent's yelling at a kid, it's like, come here right now. We're going home. Like, you're bad. And the kid just like, it's like slowly walking to the car, like playing with sticks and stuff on the way. That's kind of what it felt to me. It was just like, holy crap, this is such an egregiously bad situation. Like, such an egregiously embarrassing, like, you clearly did not earn the right to be here. This is clearly nepotism. And you're just like, I'm just going to skip across the finish line, like having a little fun time. It's just like, oh, it incensed me. It made me so mad.
Yeah, you were viscerally angry by that. I get it too, because I mean, you think somebody's being pushed out of somebody who deserved to be there from Somalia, no less, a country where it's like people need opportunities to do things, and instead nepotism, somebody from a powerful family who has no reason to be there takes that space instead. And that's another thing too that I found kind of interesting is, you know, Somalia is in East Africa. I haven't heard of a lot of Somali runners, but East Africans in general, like, they dominate in the running sports. Like Ugandans, Kenyans. Like, if you look at like, there's like 1,000-kilometer circle around like Nairobi where it's like 60% of the Olympic fucking gold, silvers, and you know, it's like, it's crazy. Like, they dominate, right? So that kind of makes it even more egregious that it's like,
not only did you not dominate, but like the person who came to represent Somalia was like embarrassingly, like, I could run faster than that. Like, I could do a sprint faster than that. It was like remember in gym class in high school where you had some people who just clearly didn't want to be there? That was like the vibe I got. It was just like
trying to fail the beep test as quickly as they could.
yeah, so you can go sit on the sides and
Yeah,
watch,
that was me,
watch all
dog.
the jog. Yeah,
I used to run in the opposite direction sometimes when we'd run in gym class.
Just to fuck with people.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, mostly the gym teacher, actually. All the kids thought it was hilarious,
Yeah.
right? The kids love my antics, but not the teachers.
Oh, beep test, dude. That's a phrase I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah, it's one I don't need to ever hear again. So it kind of also reminded me of that situation about this guy. They called him, very unfortunately, Robo the Whale. And he was an Olympic swimmer a couple years ago. I guess it would have been in, what was the most recent Summer Olympics?
3 years ago? 3 years ago? I think?
Two years ago. But where was that again? I don't even remember.
Oh, I can't.
Wherever
don't,
it was.
Don't remember it all.
Whatever.
Was it in Canada? Or there was one before that in Canada?
The last one in Canada was like Vancouver 2012 or something.
Oh, I must be thinking of the Winter Olympics. Then.
Yeah, that
the
would've
Winter
been winter,
Olympics. I mean,
yeah.
it's Canada. Like,
Yeah.
we get all the fucking Winter Olympics.
Yeah. But yeah, so and I mean, he's likewise, as the sort of fat phobic name might suggest, he was in slightly different shape. It looked like I had gone and taken my shirt off at the Olympics.
Bit of a chonker compared to the other athletes.
A little bit thick. And I think,
Yeah.
you and I are allowed to say that. So
Yeah.
he also was pretty far behind. And he also was the nephew or the cousin of a major sporting official. In this case, the Ethiopian Olympic Committee's,
Jeez.
not its the chairperson per se, but some member of the committee. So it was, it seems like, interesting enough, also an East African state in which this happens. But, like we've talked about before, I think we talked about last episode, just in general, the IOC and the international sporting world is full of a lot of this stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, this is actually kind of minor. Like, it's embarrassing for these countries, but it actually doesn't really, I mean, it speaks poorly to the countries a bit, but like, if we compare it to like, Russian and Chinese whitewashing of genocide through sport, like, it's like, oh, well, okay, there's like a little bit of corruption in East Africa. Like,
It's more cringe than anything.
yeah, it's just cringe for those
Yeah.
countries. Like, it's like, what are we doing?
Well, I saw a lot of people who are like on like Somali people who are on Twitter.
We're
and just
pissed
like,
off.
This is fucking bullshit, dude.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell's going on? Like,
well, it's Somali people should be the most mad about it. Like, it's everyone else is laughing at them, right? And they don't deserve it.
it'd be like if the if the chess world championship, instead of being like Ding Liren and Jan Nepomniachtchi, was like Ding Liren and like some cousin of a friend of Putin's or something. It's just like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, Russia can obviously get fucked, but you know what I mean, right?
Yes,
It's like
yes.
it's clearly a very like chess to Russia is like running Olympic events to like West Africa, like a lot of West African countries,
Yeah.
right? So it's like what the hell? You're screwing us like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, like, isn't nepotism like? Aren't you supposed to be like doing someone a favor when you're like there's nepotism? Like, this is like, I wouldn't do this to like my worst enemy. Like, imagine it just like if I was like, you know what, Aaron, I'm gonna do you a favor, man. Like, I got the hookups. You're gonna come run this 100-meter sprint at this international level, and you run it in like 30 seconds. All the other guys are done in like 8, and it's like. That's like actively harming this person.
This is like being on Fear Factor or some shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather eat cockroaches than fucking.
Yeah, it's like Scott's Tots episode of The Office in real life. Just like we have to watch this person skip across the finish line like a fucking 10-year-old. Like, what is going on, dude?
Yeah.
Oh, that was, whew, man. It was the skipping part. I don't know what it was. It's just like this the little casual, just like, I did it. Like, it's like, whew, man.
I feel like when I saw that, it was kind of one of those things where you kind of got to make light of a situation. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, she saw how much further ahead everyone else was. I'm sure she felt rather embarrassed. So I kind of feel like it's one of those things where it's like she's kind of like sloughing it off. I kind of actually almost felt a little bit of sympathy seeing the skip, because it was kind of like, like, I'm going to pretend that I'm not dying on the inside.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Right,
Actually, yeah, it could have been a coping mechanism for just being like, I
if
don't want to
embarrassed.
exist right now.
Yeah, I don't-
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm just gonna maybe the reason I thought it reminded me of little kids, because she like regressed to her 6-year-old self to avoid the trauma that was happening
She's
in real time.
dissociating.
Yeah, she literally in her mind just became a child again, just to be like, everything in the world is great, nothing bad can ever happen to me. It's like you're on the world stage just being embarrassed in front of hundreds of thousands of people. It's like
It's like in Simpsons when Homer comes in and he's like crying and he's like like, you know, has to crash next to Bart or whatever. So Bart puts the pillow over his head. He's like, I'm in Disneyland. I'm in Disneyland. And he's like, it's time to repress another memory, Bart.
Time to repress another memory. I am at Disneyland. Disneyland.
So it's kind of similar kind of thing where it's
Yeah,
like, okay,
probably.
I
Yeah.
gotta regress into a safe space.
I feel a
here.
lot less angry looking at it that way. That's for sure.
Yeah. Empathy, you know, it's a beautiful drug.
Empathy is based.
Empathy is based. I like that. That's a new tag phrase for sure.
Empathy is based.
Empathy is based for sure.
So I got another thing I want to bring up, actually. It's pretty interesting. There's a bit of internet drama going on between YouTube content creators and Twitch streamers, mainly a few specific ones. From what I saw, is this YouTuber that I watched. The YouTube channel is called Some Ordinary Gamers. The guy's name's Mudahar, or goes by Muda. And the Twitch streamer XQC. It's like the most popular streamer that like exists anywhere, basically. And the dramas surrounding React content. Are you familiar with like what React content is? Basically, it's like, imagine I make a video on YouTube and it's like, you know, this 20-minute video about like why modern gaming is cursed or something like that, and like I do this little mini essay, right? And it picks up on the algorithm a little bit, goes a little bit viral, starts to get views. And then a Twitch streamer like XQC, for example, his chat is like, hey, you should watch this video. Watch this video, and he watches it on stream. And then the recording of him watching it on stream is uploaded to YouTube, to his YouTube channel. And you can probably already see where kind of it's a little bit of an ethical dilemma here, where it kind of rises, where it's like, well, I put like hours and hours and hours of effort into recording this video and putting it up on the internet. And now you're watching it and recording it and uploading your video of you watching it to YouTube with the same name of the video, the same like metadata, basically, where it's like, if people search for my video, they'll probably find yours, and they may watch yours instead of mine, or they may not even see mine. They may just see your reaction to it. And then the impressions that appear, like the impressions go to you instead of to me. And so there's this big, this dialogue has been happening for a while. But it seems like it's especially blowing up now because some of the larger creators are actually starting to duke it out and be like, hey, what the hell? Like, can we all agree this is bullshit? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of these things where I remember first hearing about reaction content and seeing it more within the context of like people I had never really heard of, kind of watching things like, you know, 3 young rappers listen to Rush for the first time,
Yeah.
right? And it was actually kind of like cool. I'm like, I don't even know if it was the first time those guys heard it, but I'm like, yeah, Rush, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there'd be these things where it'd be like one person would like, there'd be a video on one side of the screen and another person would be like,
You're just
you know
making
what I
these fucking little reactions.
And like I was like, okay, this is pretty cancer, right? Like this is garbage, right? But I was like, whatever. And you know, like I'm sure like in most of those cases, I mean, this might have come up to a degree where some people are kind of getting supplanted, but for the most part, it seemed like just like free exposure by being done by people who are nobodies. But when we're talking about somebody like XQC who's gotten like $100 million, like this is a person who, you know, when they take your metadata, they now dominate the space over top of you.
Oh yeah,
There's no competition. And we're talking about things where it's like, you know, like watch Hassan react to this, but it's really like him turning on the video, walking out of the other room, doing whatever, changing it in the other room, right?
Yeah.
And like
chair stream, let's go.
Yeah,
W chair.
And then like, so I can see getting mad about it. Like if I mean, you know, we put in a fair amount of work into the stuff we create, and you know, on one hand, I might be a little gratified to see, you know, big names reacting to it. That would be from our place of being on rock bottom.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be like, okay, that's beneficial to us. But I mean, I could see it being, it's the way I compare it to is imagine if it was like, because you were telling me that this XQC guy was like, oh, it's just me watching videos with my fans. Like, you can't tell me not to watch videos with my fans. And what comes to mind is like, it's like we should just have a stream where it's like, oh, I'm just listening to Spotify with my fans.
Yeah.
I'm just watching pirated movies with my fans.
I'm just streaming U2 with my fans.
Yeah,
What's
I'm just watching the UFC fight
with my
with
fans.
100 million people. What's the big deal with that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's kind of like because they're doing it with people who, you can't do that with Spotify because Spotify will sue you to destruction.
Well, and this has happened actually not with Spotify, but with like a lot of streamers have tried to stream like anime on stream, or like stream a TV show. I think the other one was like what's the show with Gordon Ramsay?
Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, Hell's Kitchen, or maybe it was Iron Chef. It was some cooking show where it was like streamers. There was this fad where streamers were like doing like quote unquote watch parties of these shows, and like the publishers of the shows would be like, yeah, and you can't fucking do that. What the hell's the matter with you? Like, no, like, so they're getting like copyright strikes or whatever, or like getting
good
C&Ds or.
I mean, I'm not trying to defend the big corporations, but it's like we can see that sort of enforcement is necessary because this does damage innovation on the platform.
Yeah.
And it puts more undue power and influence into a few hands at the expense of many. And it just reduces, it's a form of anti-competitive behavior almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of, it's definitely, to quote you or use your phrase, it gives me the ick, right?
It's an ick for sure.
Mm-hmm,
for sure. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
It's like, imagine if like, a local burger joint had like a really cool like twist on a burger where it's like, they put like a mix of toppings that people don't normally do. And then McDonald's was like, oh yeah, we're just gonna, this is us doing the exact same fucking thing. And it's like, okay, well now you just go to McDonald's for it, right? It's like totally cannibalized. It's like kind of the same thing where it's like, well, I made this. And it's like that meme where it's like, you made this? I made this. It's like the guy is like, here, I made this, and he hands it to the person. It's like, yeah, it's very much like, it seems so lazy more than anything. Like, okay, I have to comment actually. There's one YouTuber who I think makes React content, and I think for the most part does a really good job of it in the sense of like, it's as close to being ethical React content that I can think of. And it's this guy named Asmongold. And he's like he streamed a lot of World of Warcraft back in the day, and nowadays he's kind of a variety streamer, just streams random video games and reacts to random videos and stuff. But one thing I notice is that like when you pull up one of his React videos, like he does do the annoying shit where it's like they use the same metadata, like they use the same title, and it's like, okay, well now you look that up, you're just gonna see fucking Asmongold's video. But one thing I like is that, if a particular video is like 20 minutes long, the React video for him watching it will be like 45 minutes because he pauses it. People in his, it's actually kind of funny. People in his Twitch chat like get mad at him and be like, stop pausing, just watch the video. But he's like, he pauses it all the time and goes on like long rants of just like, yeah, this guy's right and here's why, because blah, 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 blah. Or like, oh, actually, I disagree with this and here's why, blah, blah, blah. Like,
which is also a degree of value adding.
Yeah, it's actual transformative content. Like it's actual, like, you're not just throwing in a little 30-second comment here and there. It's like, it's like a meme that the React video is like twice as long as the fucking video itself, right? So it's like, okay, clearly we can agree that there's some transformative thing happening here, right? And I find that when people do complain about React streamers, he doesn't come up very often. And I think it's partially because of that. It is transformative. He's adding to the content, but also it seems like he or his editors makes an effort to like boost the person that their video he's watching. Like he posts the person's channel in the chat and says, hey, go subscribe to this person. Everyone, this was a good video. I like this guy's videos. Go subscribe to him. It's in the description of the video that gets posted. I do think it does still cannibalize impressions a little bit because it uses the same title. And that's just really annoying to me. Like, like that part kind of icks me a little bit.
But, one thing I would say is the simple fact that he has people in his chat going,
just watch the damn video,
indicates that you can't really go to it for the purposes of just watching it. And therefore, so if you really want to watch it and you know that he's just going to be doing that and he's posted the link, you're almost driving traffic, right? Like there's a degree to which simply having people say, quit pausing so much, indicates that the way he's doing it, he's not doing that intending to make it not usable not as cannibalistic, so to speak, but it appears to have that function by doing that because people would be aware that they can't just go there and watch it uninterrupted. They have to hear this guy giving his color commentary all the time, which presumably is what they're there for most of the time anyways.
Yeah, it's interesting because people, I think one misconception, at least in the US, is that people think that they say fair use law, like fair use law, this is fair use or this isn't fair use. But there really is no like there's no yes or no on like what is or is not fair use. It's determined by a court, like a jury or a judge. So it's not like, if you steal this much money, it's larceny versus petty theft. It's left up to interpretation. So people will say like, oh, well, this is transformative, therefore it's fair use, therefore it's okay. And it's like, well, that's not like, there's no.
That's an
black and
argument to
white.
make, but they'll have to make if they're sued, they'll have to make that argument in front of a judge. It's not something you can just pro forma say, ergo, I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that while it is problematic to be like, oh, this is or is not fair use objectively, because that's just not how that law works. Whether or not it should work that way is a different story entirely, but that's not the way that law works. However, I think there is value in including in the dialogue, comparing one streamer who plays a video uninterrupted and has like maybe 10 minutes of added stuff in like an hour video, or like Hassan leaves the fucking room and just has the chair watch the video, versus a streamer who will like transform the content by adding their own stuff to it, like adding a lot of dialogue. Like I think that one thing I remember reading in the fair use, like not law, but like in some of the guidance about what could or could not be considered fair use, one of the things that's mentioned is like market replacement. So like if what you're doing is a market replacement or not for the thing that you're using, right? So like if you're taking somebody's video and you're uploading it and you're not really doing anything, if most of the value of that video, like if most of the value of the recording of you reacting is the video that you're reacting to, that would make what you're doing a market replacement for the actual video that you're reacting to. Versus if most of the value of the recording of you reacting is your reactions and your added value and your dialogue, then this no longer, it's like you said, it's like you're not watching it to watch the video anymore. You're watching it to hear what this guy or girl has to say.
And even functionally are frustrated in the goal of being there to strictly watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
So it's more obviously not a market replacement. So again, you can't say, yes, this isn't fair use. But I think that if we're going to be talking about it, that's an important thing to take note of, right? Is like, how much effort is this person actually putting in? It's like you mentioned, like the 3 young rappers react to Russia the first time. It's like, I feel like React content kind of falls into 2 different categories. Category number 1 is the XQC Hassan Asmongold type stuff, where it's like a person puts a video on while they're on stream and then pauses it and says something every once in a while, or doesn't. Their chair sits in the corner of the screen. I'm going to keep referencing that just because it's so ridiculous, just to be like, I'm just going to leave and just like if I was watching a video at home by myself, I would never let it play while I go make food. Like, what is the point? Why do I even have this on my screen anymore? I'm just an addict. Like, I'm not even watching the video. It's just like religion at this point. I'm just like putting it on. It's like, it's got to keep playing videos. You're not even there. Anyway. It's
just some sort of compulsive habit.
Yeah. But I think there's like that category of React content. And there's the one that you're talking about where it's like, like a doctor reacts to medical scenes in a medical drama. Like there's this guy, Dr. Mike. Very famous, like very attractive doctor.
Yeah,
guy.
I've seen him before. I've seen him before.
And the React stuff that he does, he'll watch a clip from like House, and then he'll be like, oh yeah, this is a brachiotraumatic. Like he'll have some like specific medical term and like provide some medical insight. And then it's like, okay, yeah. So if I would have just watched House, I wouldn't have gotten this. Like if I would have just watched this scene from this TV show, it's very different from watching this specific person offer their specific insight on what's happening.
There is a good example of this actually was there's a lawyer reacting to some sort of the Tate stuff, being like, yeah, this looks like he's admitting the thing on this video. Like he's watching an Andrew Tate video.
Right.
And he's going through and he's like, yeah, this sounds like an admission of guilt here.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about this. And it's like, yeah, he's adding to it. I mean, firstly, I don't care if somebody steals from Andrew Tate in the first place, obviously. But beyond that, the point being is that this is an expert opinion. This is an opinion. This is expert opinion. It's a value added process, right? Where it's like you couldn't get this elsewhere.
Yeah.
This is meaningfully different from the original thing.
Or maybe you could get it elsewhere, but you couldn't get it from the original thing. That's the point. It's like maybe some other doctor or some other rapper or whatever. But like you couldn't, if you watch the original video, you don't get this, right? So I think it's interesting because there's a lot of stuff surrounding intellectual property law, intellectual property rights, and all this kind of stuff that, like, much like we've talked about social media kind of not really being, like, legislation and regulation not really being up to the times on that. I felt for a while that the intellectual property law has not really come a long way or really gone much of anywhere in the last, like, couple decades, maybe, at least in terms of catching up with the way that content is created now today.
Well, never mind with the AI stuff. That's in a whole other can of worms being opened up, where it's like farming the entire internet in order to reproduce them. And it's firstly, that's unsustainable. Right?
Yeah,
you need actual humans to input new data for it to actually be reliable of production, right? Because again, it's not a thinking thing. It's just a aggregate result of millions of points of data that it's scraped from everyone else.
Well, and it's also this might be a little bit strange coming from me, as somebody who works in the field of computer science. AI generated content is theft. It just is. Like, if you don't have somebody's consent to use their product to create and sell another product, that's theft. That's what theft is. And just because you're stealing equally from everybody on the internet doesn't mean you're not stealing.
Yeah, you're just stealing even harder.
Yeah, if anything, that's like the like apotheosis of stealing from people.
Yes.
It's like, I'm just gonna rob everyone at the same time. That way, who's gonna sue me? Everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
But as it turns out, actually, that is kind of happening. Like, so there are some groups of, like, writers, like authors, and
I saw Sarah Silverman was suing somebody. I think ChatGPT. She was looking at suing them. I'm like, fucking rights.
Yeah.
Sarah Silverman. Another reason I love you. You know what I mean?
Let's go. But yeah, it's. I think that the intellectual property laws just aren't, like, if we can't properly handle React content with law, how the hell are we going to handle AI generated content? You know, like, if the legislation hasn't caught up to YouTube and Twitch, how's it going to catch up to ChatGPT and Stable Diffusion? It's just not. Like,
I'm just imagining AI React content where there's just one of those creepy faces, like from we were talking about from last week, where it's like, I watched this video, it pissed me off so much, I went and shot up the streamer's house.
Oh my God.
And now, a word from one of our many sponsors.
Burnt salad. It's a house salad, but somehow burnt. Brought to you by Divorced Dad's Weekend Treats, a division of 4M. 4M.
Cause Nestle's a little bitch.
Yeah, so we're talking about these scam ads that are just popping up all over the X
Sheeter.
the Sheeter, yeah, the Sheeter TM. We should just maybe we can make that a thing, and then they can steal that Twitter account from us. We'll make a Twitter account called Sheeter.
Yeah.
And then it'll become such a sensation that they'll steal it from us. But yeah, let me.
We'll get to meet the developers.
Oh yeah,
get some X merch. So hype. Yeah, jeez. I read actually. I think that the @music handle got reclaimed as well. Like, somebody had the handle
@music,
and it was like they had like 500,000 followers.
Yeah,
or something.
500,000 followers, and they got jacked up.
They got sheeted.
Yeah, they got the sheet end of the stick.
Yeah. Tell me about these ads.
Yeah, so this is it's a ad it's a verified user named Martin Crowley at AI Tool Report. My boss thinks I'm an AI genius. I'm not. It's because I read the AI Tool Report and they have no idea it exists. AI Tool Report reader. And then it has a thing where it shows as the image for the tweet. It says David E. Sutton. It says, do yourself a favor. Stop wasting time on social media. Sign up for the AI Tool Report. It's free. Get smarter in 5 minutes a day. Click below. And we go below, and it shows readers added context. So there's a little community note, which is one of the few good things that have happened on the Sheeter since Musk took over. But it says, the user Davey Bravey is an unverified account on Twitter, has 0 tweets and 57 followers. He apparently never tweeted this, nor did he promote the AI tools. Do you find this helpful?
Yes. Smash that yes button. Yes.
Rate it helpful for sure.
I'm not really a rate your app 5 stars kind of guy, but sometimes, you just got to smash the like button,
Oh yeah. No, on that one, that was a great, but we see this all the time, right? These ads popping up on Twitter. They're all the worst ads. Like I could show you, but there's ones where it's like be a beautiful warrior. 200. It's like these weird, sort of like semi-pornographic looking anime games. I guess mobile games. There's like,
it's like we can't show you this online, but if you come to our website,
and it's like this is the quality of advertising that's happening on there. It's to the point where like usually and this is a growing issue for Twitter, where it's like, do advertisers, like legitimate advertisers, want to be attached to these content creators? But it's also getting to the point where it's like, do these content creators want to be attached to this cancerous ad? Like these ads that are all over the place is like, it's ridiculous. It's just becoming more and more of a cesspool, really, every day. And part of it I can't help is just funding desperation. You know what I mean? Like they're apparently having problems paying the rent, which also just sounds like a, do something about it action by Musk, because Musk could out of pocket pay for that stuff. You know what I mean? But he's sort of a Trumpian character in that sense, that he just kind of stiffs people. So, or at least that's apparently what it's looking like.
Citation needed.
Citation needed. Yeah. No. I mean, that one I know. No, he is. Like, you haven't heard about this? Yeah, he hasn't been paying his bills. Like
Really?
Twitter is not paying for this. And like apparently the $6,000 fine they got for the X sign was paid for by the landlord. And the landlord isn't getting the rent paid to him. And it's like, what's going on here? Like, this is so backwards. Like,
you made an interesting point the other day, because you're talking about advertising, like terrible advertising on Twitter. You made an interesting point that like you theorize that like the vast majority of like advertising on the internet is just like a complete waste of money and just like does nothing at all. I'm actually starting to think that that's more and more true, partially because the advertising space is just so demented at this point. The average person seeing ads, you probably just assume that they're all of the same quality and that they're all just garbage and you're never going to pay attention to them ever. And you just build it into your habit to just know which tweets are sponsored, which like, it's like sometimes like my wife will be on TikTok and I'll like watch her kind of scrolling through stuff, and she'll scroll past a video that she's watched, and the video that comes up is an ad. And like, as soon as she realizes that it's an ad, she just leaves it, right? She just scrolls past it. Cause obviously, of course, right? Like, and so it's gone to the point where some advertisers are like trying to make ads that don't seem like ads. They seem like, oh, this TikTok just happened to show up on your For You page. Like Reddit does this a lot too, actually. Like a lot of the Reddit advertisements are like, it's like, oh, this finance app helped me so much in my day-to-day. And it's like, you look at who posted it and it's like finance app name. It's like, oh, what the fuck?
yeah.
No upvotes, not posted to any particular subreddit.
Yeah, Twitter is like that. Twitter, like I don't, you know what? I only started using Twitter as, compulsively. That's the word I'm looking for. Relatively recently. So I my frame of reference is kind of clouded by, the era of Musk. But, I think that there's been a practice always to have these sponsored tweets. They really are annoying. Like, it almost just makes you resentful. There's like, oh, this was just paid to be in my face. Okay, like next, like this is not what I want, right? That's the thing too, is with these programs, with the algorithms that run it, they're supposed to be showing you things you want. So even if it's things that are trying to like hide themselves as a regular thing, you can still see it, because it's like, well, why do you think I care about, bespoke fucking hair gel? You know what I mean? Like, I do not care. Does not relate to me whatsoever. And I know it. And it's in my For You. No, this is not for me. This is not for me.
Yeah.
Like, I actually find YouTube is really good with ads, even though they're chock full ads, and you have premium, so you don't have to deal with this.
Yeah.
But I was telling you about how, now that I'm always searching up, how to make video editor do X, right?
Yeah. How to make Premiere stop fucking crashing all the time.
How to make Adobe not shit the bed. You put that into your computer 50 times, and all you get are video editing things. But some of it, I'm like, this product looks interesting.
Yeah.
This looks like, it gets annoying where it's like the big ones are always like, I wish I could remember one of them offhand, but they're like, they get almost irritating.
Yeah.
But it could be a lot worse. And they're ads that have use. But yeah, you go on Twitter, none of the ads have any value to me. They're like red pill, Chad Dad bod, fucking how to get shredded on fucking TRT in fucking 6 weeks.
Weird anime game ads.
Yeah, weird semi-pornographic shit, and just like, just weird shit, man. just weird, man. Like it's like uncanny valley fucking. Yeah, no, it's not right. It's not right.
And that's like these ads were bad even before people started using ChatGPT to make them.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like I miss the ads that were like bad without ChatGPT, because now you see ads like I think I know the one you're talking about, where it's like the exercise thing, and it's like 4 random bodies, and they're just like weirdly shaped. Dude, like those are cursed. They are actual cursed, like possessed, demonic ads. Like they're terrifying.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. We're gonna. I forgot about those, but those are the worst. Yeah, where it's just like this body without a head that's all gut.
Yeah,
It's like, what am I looking at? Like this.
and then some vague exercise plan with like 15 to 20 sit-ups and 20 to 30 push-ups. Sacrifice your soul to Molag Bal. Like, it's like this fucking weird demonic ad. Those are cursed, man. It's like, you know what? Maybe this is an example of legislation not catching up too, because I vaguely remember looking into like advertising laws in Canada specifically, and for television ads, for ads on like cable TV, and there's like a decent amount of like, you know, like you can't just falsely advertise stuff. There's rules about how to advertise to kids. There's like,
It's like safety and broadcasting.
yeah, there's like
whatever,
actual legislation there.
Yeah, and that
And
comes
regulation.
that comes back to the thing about the CRTC, and that legacy media actually has to abide by a lot of rules that simply do not exist on the internet, right?
Yeah, it's like and I wonder if part of it is because the actual process is decentralized. Well, not decentralized, but like, you know, when I get an ad on YouTube, it's not YouTube Canada Corporation serving me the ad, right? It's like I'm on YouTube, which is hosted in the US, and like something in their system determines which ad to show me, and then it shows it to me. And that ad space was purchased by a company who's not in the US. And it's like, it gets harder to trace the line back to who's responsible.
I would say that the thing is that in terms of running ads that are harmful, ultimately I don't know because I've not looked at the legislation, but I would think it's the broadcaster who's responsible. So in this case, it would be Google Ads who would be responsible for the content of the ads in which they're showing you. And then regarding operating out of the US, well, firstly, Google almost certainly has a Canada operation. It certainly has a lawyer of record. In order to operate in the Canadian space, there's a degree to which you need to be liable to Canadian markets, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, this kind of brings us to another point that we should talk about, which is Facebook dropping all of the news content, Canadian news
That's
content.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I really kind of wanted to get your take on that. But yeah, it's one of these things where there needs to be something done in this space, and it's so difficult. Like I would say, you know, you use the phrase decentralized in a way. It's like, well, actually, it's perhaps more centralized. I mean, Google Ads is responsible for like 60% of the ads on the internet. So all you really got to do is go after Google. And we're seeing that these companies are trying to use their leverage as monopolist powers. Like Facebook is doing it right now in Canada by saying, okay, we just will get rid of all of the services to Canada, and we'll make it obvious that we're doing it because of what the government's doing. And that's kind of interference in a foreign state. You know what I mean? Like, it's not against
blackmail.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
it's not technically illegal, I guess, but as far as I'm concerned, people should be. I'm amazed by how people are critical of our government for this rather than being critical of the monopolists. And the only reason they're doing it is because what they say is they have to share some of the advertising revenue with publishers, right? So it's to say that, okay, people who create content should benefit from the use of that content. That seems completely reasonable to me.
well, do you know what's interesting? Big citation needed on this one, but I read that this already happened in Australia.
It did.
This already happened, and
did.
it didn't work out for Facebook. Facebook tried to do pretty much the same thing, to be like, well, we're just going to not follow these. Like, we're just going to say, fuck you, Australia, and not do anything. And the backlash was huge, to the point where they had actual like emergency services or like some type of urgent service that like stopped working on Facebook because of what Facebook was doing, like disabling certain things for like, yeah, I remember Facebook actually ended up having to like concede and be like, okay, we will make some of these deals that you're telling us we have to make. Like, we'll make the Australian government was saying like, you have to do these partnerships, like these actual contracts, these actual fair things that we're telling you to do. And Facebook ultimately had to do it. So they tried to do this already in Australia and failed. And so I've seen theories that Facebook is kind of trying to make an example out of Canada on the global stage to be like, nobody else fuck with us because we're going to drop you too.
Yeah, no, we got to stand firm on that. Fuck that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's ridiculous. And it's not that I think that I need to get news from Facebook. It's not that either. And it's not that I think that like, you know, Facebook is obligated to like serve that type of service. It's more that like what this action represents is like an active, they're actively downgrading their existing service in spite of legislation. Like in spite of the legislation, they're saying, you know what, instead of doing that thing that you've determined, like the government has determined is better for Canadians, whether or not they're right or not, it remains to be seen. But like, instead of following that law, we're just going to leave. We're just going to fuck you and leave. And that puts way too much power in the hands of the corporation. Way, 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 way too much power.
Well, and let's be clear about something. These corporations, you know, go head over heels for China. You know what I mean? China asks, like they like Twitter does it. Twitter talks about all this, Musk talks about all this free speech stuff. He pulls stuff down for China and Saudi Arabia all the time for totalitarian and authoritarian states. But Canada, you know, and, you know, a lot of people are critical of Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party, but ultimately Canada is a democracy. The legislation that comes out of the Parliament ultimately is the democratic will of the Canadian people as facilitated by the state, right? So what Facebook is doing is they're saying, no, we don't care what Canadians have to say within their democratic processes. We're going to override that because we're a powerful corporation based overseas and we will profit from you as we like. And if you don't like that, like you can't regulate us. And I think it's disgusting. It's also not surprising. It's not surprising. But it shows like the danger of any form of monopoly power. Like this is a good example where it's like, well, you know, monopoly power might be difficult to fight for antitrust reasons because of what are the costs to consumers. But here it's pretty clear what the cost is to the legitimacy of the state, right? And we're allowing corporations to get to the point, especially these tech corporations, to the point where they can engage in actions that, to a degree, are acts of delegitimization of state power. And so, you know, I have some serious reservations about that, especially given the fact that they don't have the audacity to do that to China because China is such a major market, right? Yeah. And you know, Twitter does it for Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia invested in Twitter along with Elon Musk, right? Yeah. And like, you know, democracies are being put at a disadvantage with respect to authoritarian states using the technology that was developed and could only ever have been developed in a democratic capitalist country, right? Where, you know, Russia is now utilizing these platforms to flood our information space with nonsense, which is setting us against each other. And this isn't conspiracy. This is documented. You know, Prigozhin is the guy who ran the Internet Research Agency was called, which was a troll farm. And he talked all about, yeah, we interfered in the 2016 election. This isn't conspiratorialism. You know, it's obvious. They're doing it. They're trying to create every fissure that they can in democratic countries as part of their you know, broader mission of, you know, destroying democratic institutions. So it's something where we need to say, hey, listen, social media companies, are you on the side of democracy or authoritarian states? And be like, okay, well then we'll break you up into 6 pieces. We'll hold you responsible for your behavior. This will not continue. You exist on the basis of the fact that you could only do this in our society, and now you're using it to wreck our society. Yeah, and that disgusts me.
Yeah, and I think that the tricky thing about this Facebook not showing Canadian news anymore is that all of the power is in Facebook's hands with respect to the information that the average consumer receives, right? Because Facebook has the power to show you a notification that says the government's wrong and here's why, and as a result, your service is getting worse and it's their fault. And so Facebook has the initiative to be like, I'm going to tell you how it is, and mechanism does the government have to educate people on Facebook that the actual reason this is happening is because Facebook is fucked? Like,
yeah, exactly.
like,
Well, and that's the thing. And you know what? You bring up a good point because that sounds like a form of political messaging, right? It is political messaging. So they should say, okay, I guess if like you're entitled to do that and say that if you register as some sort of a organization with a political bent to it, like, because that's political behavior. You're criticizing the policies of a country. That's not. Yeah, I think I'm. You know, it's funny because we were basically frothing at the mouth about Threads and the emergence of an alternative to Twitter, and I'm still for Mark Zuckerberg in the cage match.
yeah, this fucking cage match shit.
But and I sent you some tweets where Musk was talking about how he's training. He's like,
I'm lifting weights at work while I work. I'm too busy to go to the gym.
And people are like, man, Zuckerberg is gonna pull this guy's spine out like he's Sub-Zero.
Yeah, he's gonna suplex you to another dimension. Sheesh.
But still, that being said, I still also kind of hope that I also want to see Mark Zuckerberg's in chains over this shit in front of fucking Parliament, getting tarred and feathered. Like, this angers me so much. Like, don't come after my country, buddy. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but I guess that's just my Canadian patriotism, coming out full bore,
Well, it also sucks because like what can the government, like, what's the government actually going to be able to do besides like, all right, fuck you, no
they
Facebook.
Could pull a China and say, okay, we'll block you entirely, and we'll freeze all your assets because you engaged in political speech and you're trying to interfere in our democracy, and we consider you now an enemy actor. And until you come to the table, we're going to continue to freeze your assets. We're going to screw it. Like, I mean, I don't know. I guess they don't really have. The problem is we don't have the power to do that. And to do that would destabilize the market economy in which we depend.
Yeah.
Right. So we can't really do it. But in my ideal world, it'd be like Mark Zuckerberg, dead or alive. You know what I mean? Pew, pew. Like, fuck that shit, buddy. Like, that's goofy. That's goofy.
Yeah.
So speaking of Canadian politics, some what I would say is rather unfortunate news, but it happens. The Prime Minister is separating from his wife.
That's right. Yeah, I read that. Yeah.
So, and that is what it is. I mostly bring it up to bring on the fact that I don't know if I sent you the tweet where I guess Justin Trudeau went to Barbie and he's decked out and he's with this young man and he's decked out. He's got pink on. He's like, they're like, yeah, we're going to go see, we're Team Barbie, right? And so somebody shared the thing and be like, oh, like I just heard that and this was like an American too. But they're all, whatever, right? And they're like, oh, I didn't know Justin Trudeau, I didn't think he'd turn gay that quickly after blah, blah, blah. And implying like he's got a sexual relationship with this young man. It's like, other person's like, dude, that's his son. Like,
what the?
Yeah, that's his son, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and that's the thing, man, is like these people are like fucking perverts. That's all they can think about, right? Like these far right maniacs are like the instant first thing is like thinking about, oh, fucking, I bet Trudeau likes to have sex with dudes. It's like,
yeah,
I think maybe you got things you got to work on, dog.
Yeah,
like
what the?
I don't think that if that's your first thing. Firstly, everybody's wearing pink and going to Barbie, or at least 60% of the population. I guess the mega extreme is like disgusted by it, but it's like, get over it.
Well, yeah. Like, can I just say also, like, pink gets such a bad rap. Like, you wouldn't know by watching the podcast, but like, I wear a lot of pink. Like, I have pink sweats, pink hoodies, pink, in video games where it's like my NHL 23 character right now has got fucking pink laces on his skates and pink gloves. Like, I just, like, it's one of these things where I always say like, why is pink for girls? Like, pink is not for girls. Pink is just a color. It doesn't have to be for girls. We just decided it was, and that was it. There's nothing inherently feminine about this part of the fucking visible light spectrum, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? It's like, so now this guy wears all pink and goes to Barbie. The movie is probably, you ever see, I used to see these Reddit posts where it's like, it's like it's a picture, it's a long kind of spectrum. And basically what it is, it's like a scene for every like 10 seconds or something from a movie, and like the average color of that scene. And then it's these slices all put together in one gradient, and it basically represents like the average color of the movie, and like what the average, like, yeah, I guess that's it. What the average color of the movie is. So like if the movie uses, like if you were to look at one for like Sin City, it'd be like gray and red.
Yes.
And if you were looking at one for Barbie, it'd be probably predominantly pink. Like the whole
Yeah.
thing's gonna be pink. So it's like you're gonna
If
wear
you're watching scary or sad things, it's going to be colder colors.
yeah
If you're watching
grays and light blues
and
like, yeah.
blues, yeah, lots of blue. It's interesting, actually. You can really watch the use of light and color to. And if you don't know about it, you don't really consciously, you're not aware of it. It's impacting you, but you're not consciously aware of it. But when you start watching, like there was this one time it was a scene from like the first season of, oh my God, the big one, the Stranger Things.
Okay, yeah.
And it was a scene where inside the house, everything was like lots of warm colors, these oranges and yellow, and it's like this sort of bucolic scene. And outside,
What
everything
does bucolic mean?
bucolic means it's like idealized and it's like, it's like pastoral, it's I'm doing that thing where I can't define the word very effectively. I'm just giving a bunch of synonyms, but basically it's idealized. It's romanticized. It's
Okay,
like this
yeah.
is warm and fuzzy. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? That's bucolic.
This
Or-
should make you feel good.
Yeah, this should make you feel good. And that's
Okay.
exactly it. And during the same scene, you can see that they've color treated the inside, so it's got this warm color palette, and then the outside it's like stormy and blue and
Mm.
like this dark and like cold color palette, right? Which is to imply, when I see that scene as somebody who's vaguely started getting interested into the filmmaking stuff, is like, oh look, they're saying inside the house is this zone of safety, and outside in the world it's dangerous,
And
right?
scary, yeah.
Right? And so if you really start watching it, it's interesting to see that. But yeah,
You're gonna wear pink to the Pink movie. Like what the fuck?
yeah, exactly. Like who cares? Well, that's the thing too, is like, I'm sorry, but it's like I kind of feel like they really desperately want him to be gay because they're actually kind of like, because this is a handsome guy, right? Like I want them to like I want him to start having affairs with like beautiful women just to piss off the right wing. That's what I want. You know what I mean? Like I just want like Eva Longoria on his arm or some shit and be like, what's up now then? Trudeau fucks, this guy
This
fucks.
guy fucks.
So yeah, that's kind of my opinion on it. I was always a big critic of Trudeau, and as people have become more like just like frothing out the mouth hating of him, I've become, more and more I don't like him. I want to make that clear. I don't like him. I have always thought he was a dynast. He's a member of a dynasty. I don't like dynasties. Although I find it very ironic how everyone's always saying, he doesn't know the Constitution. He's breaking our constitutional rights. It's like, his dad wrote the Constitution, dog. He brought, Trudeau brought about the charter. And now you're saying he doesn't get the charter. He's fucking with my charter rights. And I'm not saying that's impossible. I'm not saying that Justin Trudeau can't, but it's just like, people will simultaneously invoke the charter and then hate on the Trudeau family and say like, Pierre Trudeau was a cuck and now his son's busting my charter rights. It's like, what? Okay, like thank a Trudeau for that. Like, you idiot. Like that's the thing. Like people don't learn history. People don't understand the history of their own country. And then they have the audacity to be like, I'm going to define my country. And you don't know what my country is. I do. And it's like, you don't. The basis of what you think your country is based on like the aggregation of your grievances and messaging from mass media. Like you don't, not any more so than anyone else.
Yeah.
And it's pretty ridiculous. So, but I think I've burnt myself out on the whole Trudeau thing. So let's move on to the next thing here.
Sure.
I wanted to talk about the big indictments have come down. The big one.
Yeah, the big one. TM.
Yeah. So Donald Trump was indicted in Washington on charges relating to January 6th, and specifically a conspiracy that's him and 6 unnamed co-conspirators, 5 of whom we've basically identified. One, last I checked, we're still uncertain, but it was like clearly I was reading it. I'm like, oh, that's Sidney Powell. Oh, that's Rudy Giuliani. You know what I mean? So it's like pretty clear who the other co-conspirators are. None of them have been indicted yet. For a number of strategic reasons, but so this is the big one, and so a lot of Republicans are trying to defend it by saying, oh, it's speech is suddenly illegal, like First Amendment. They're just stomping on the First Amendment, right? Specifically, if you read the indictment, which they're counting on the fact that they're mega
That people
supporters.
don't read it.
People don't read it, which is a fair assessment of
If
people.
you read the first fucking page of the indictment.
It
By the way.
says
It's in
this-
like one of the first few pages.
Yeah, the first couple paragraphs, it says explicitly that the former president has the right to, you know, make false claims about the election and say all these things. These are protected. None of these charges relate to speech acts with respect to the First Amendment. But more importantly, and something that I really like that I'm kind of going to explore a bit more, is that Bill Barr, who was Donald Trump's attorney general, and he like basically quashed the Mueller investigation. Like he was a servile goof in favor of Trump.
What does that mean? Was servile?
Servile means like he's like a sycophant. He just
he just kind of do whatever he says.
does whatever he
he's always
says and
right.
making any argument he can. He has this argument that like there's like a very strong authority in the presidency and the president can basically do whatever he wants. Like he kind of came into the fore because that was his legal argument. So it's like obviously Donald Trump likes that legal argument.
Yeah.
To be fair, any executive likes a legal argument that further
Yeah,
empowers them, and no matter who. That's why we don't see when the presidency is given more and more powers. We don't see, even when a presidential candidate like Obama, say, criticizes the buildup of executive power under Bush. He didn't alter that because once you're in the role, you're like, well,
I'll
this
take
is
it.
it. Yeah, I'll take it. A useful tool, right? Like you don't usually unilaterally disarm. But yeah, so what really I find interesting, the thing I'm going to bring up is here's Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff is a senior member of the Democratic House Caucus, and he's like, I think he was like the head of the Judiciary Committee during, you know, a lot of like discussing of the January 6th stuff, a lot of this stuff. Anyways, he says, I'll just read what he said here on Twitter. Transparency will be crucial in the trials of the U.S. versus Donald J. Trump. It's why dozens of my colleagues joined me today in urging that these proceedings be broadcast to the public. If the American people are to accept the outcome, it will be vitally important for them to witness, as directly as possible, the full facts and evidence. And I was like, yeah.
Let's go. Content.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Give
I mean,
me the content.
well, and you know, it's not without precedent, right? I actually think that he's actually got a really important, valuable argument in regards to democracy, but it's also just really beneficial for the Democrats politically at the same time, right? But you know, the OJ trial was televised. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That wasn't as important as this.
Yeah,
Lots of
Johnny Depp and I can't remember her name.
Amber Heard.
Amber
Yeah.
Heard. That was televised.
Exactly. So, and I don't see why we shouldn't televise this. I really think that if anything needs to be, this is the most, I heard somebody refer to Donald Trump as the most important criminal defendant in U.S. criminal history. And it's true.
Yeah.
There has never been an indicted president. There has never been anyone indicted for trying to overturn an election or engage in what's called an auto golpe, an auto coup, right? Where you engage in a coup of your own government in order to maintain power. But yeah, so let me just pull up. So one of the things, going back to its efficacy as a political tool, just imagine that, and it's looking like as of right now, Donald Trump is the presumptive nominee so far. Right? Like he's dominating. DeSantis is second by miles. You know, nobody else is even in the double digits. And it doesn't look like that's going to change necessarily. Although I think that actually things are shifting, but that's another matter. Let's just, you know, look at the effect that having even the most ardent supporters of Trump day after day after day, seeing on television, oh, and here's Donald Trump. Here's the evidence of Donald Trump doing this, doing that, doing this. Now the mega base, they're not going to move, and they're going to be even more strengthened by this. But people in the middle, people who are like just mainstream conservatives who are like went along with the Trumpism as a means to, you know, get their judicial appointments and, you know, get power.
Toe the line.
Yeah, toe the line. They're going to be increasingly turned off by this. And it's especially important in the general because the states in which this is most significantly impacting and will be brought up the most, not just in this charge, but in the other charges, are going to be the most impactful. Like he tried to get the things changed in specific states: Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, maybe Wisconsin, I'm not certain, but swing states. So swing state moderate voters are going to be hearing over and over again how Donald Trump tried to have their votes thrown out.
Yeah, not a good look.
Not a good look.
Not
And
a
I
good
think
look.
that and it'll go on. It'll be on TV for months, if not like into the election. It just won't stop. It'll take so long. It'll be so much. It's like somebody made a $500 million super PAC for Biden and just started running ads. Like it's better than $1 billion worth of media spending by the Biden campaign.
Yeah.
So it kind of made me think of, we've talked about this sludge. I think that the Biden campaign should make its own type of sludge content on TikTok,
Yeah.
where you have the Trump trial on one hand, and then you have videos of like Biden eating ice cream, Biden going for a bicycle ride, Biden, taking Commander out for a walk when he goes and bites one of those Secret Service members, the whole gamut, right? And it's I think it'd be hilarious, actually. I really do think that would be great content. And be leaning into, it's funny seeing these different campaigns are leaning into these different social media trends. I showed you how Joe Biden had the video where he's drinking from the dark Brandon mug, right?
Yeah,
and all the right wingers were just livid about it, right?
Yeah.
They're like, well, he's making a joke of the joke we made. Like, and like they're acting like it's the end of the world. Like, it's like there's some of them are just such prima donnas. But another campaign has been really leaning into the social media stuff to the exact opposite effect. And that's the DeSantis campaign.
Oh, God.
Right? I don't know if I should even retread this ground.
It's so bad.
But like you saw that they had this guy, Nick Hotchman was his name. He was a staffer. And he's the guy that created that video that they claimed they didn't create, but they actually created, where they have the Sonderrand or Sonderrad, whatever it's called. I'll put it up on the screen. Not neo-Nazi symbolism on an official DeSantis campaign ad, where it's like, are you for real? Like, not only is it like bad and dumb and dangerous, but it's not even good politics. Like, it's bad politics. It's brain dead, terminally online, go touch grass politics.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of like a sight to behold. You know what I mean? Like, as somebody who is on Twitter regularly and sees this and sees that it's quite palatable to many people on Twitter, which makes me go, oh my God, the world is like coming to an end. It's quite like reassuring to see that this is anathema to the regular person. It's like, oh, thank God. It reminds me, you know what? I need to touch grass too and remember that like there's good regular people out there. Go outside, smile at a baby, wave at a family, like look at the sun, right? Like things are okay, right? Pet a dog, or whatever. Pet a cat, like JBP says you got to go do, right?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, he's right
One of
about
the
that. Go
12
pet
rules.
a cat.
Hey, man, if you make 12 rules, one or two of them are bound to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, can't make 12. It's hard. It's like answering all 50 questions wrong on a multiple choice. Like, you're going to get some right by accident, right?
Yeah. So another interesting thing that's kind of developing on this indictment is the fact that Mike Pence is coming out further and further saying basically everything up to that Trump is guilty of this.
Mhm.
I think what he said specifically, he said that Trump tried to induce him to breach his constitutional duty.
Yeah.
And so what that's saying is functionally that Mike Pence is saying that Donald Trump breached his constitutional duty and was abrogating the Constitution in his behavior. He's saying everything up to that he was engaging in a criminal act. And now I think that this is really important to see that Pence has been kind of slow rolling this. Like he's been like, well, I don't know, this is really unfortunate, but history will be the judge and blah 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 blah. Because he's a politician's politician. He's definitely
A little piss boy.
a little piss boy.
A weak
Yes.
piss boy.
A weak piss boy, exactly. So the fact that he's coming out and he's actually seeing there's a political value to this, to coming out against him, actually gives me a lot of hope that the GOP is actually starting to slough off a lot of this Trumpian nonsense, right? He's kind of positioning himself as being anti-MAGA, right? I don't know if you saw, but I had made pretty early on during the campaign, I said that, a potential ticket was Pence-Haley. And I think that this actually that's probably a long shot still, and I'm not even a fan of either one of them. I just thought it would be like a politically powerful ticket because they would balance each other off. And this situation actually leads me to think that that's even more the case, especially for their own benefit on their side, because Haley has specifically come out and said she's basically still being a little piss boy and just carrying water, just being a toady for Trump, saying, no, they shouldn't do this. They're going after him for First Amendment stuff. And it's like, no, like, but in this sense that, if Mike Pence were the nominee and chose her, well, that would bring some MAGA people on board because they said, well, at least Nikki Haley was always with our boy Trump.
Also, the thing about the First Amendment thing is so ridiculous to me because it's like, even if he honestly thinks that the election was stolen, like that doesn't mean you can just go like
Commit criminal acts.
It's like, imagine you go to the bank and it's like, you're like, okay, well, my bank account should have $5,000 in it, and the bank says it has $0 in it. I think that I disagree. Like, I think they're stealing my money. I'm gonna go bring a fucking AK to a local bank and just like steal it back. Like, you're not exempt. You're just because you think they have your money. Like, doesn't mean you can just go rob the bank.
Just because somebody burnt 30 of your Popeyes chicken sandwiches doesn't mean you can shoot up the place.
Exactly. Yes. No matter what ChatGPT thinks, it's like speech and action are two very different things. Very different things. Also, the conspiracy to commit crime, like the conspiracy between two people to be like, we're gonna do this thing, which is illegal.
Yeah,
like,
conspiracy is not protected by the First Amendment. This is Bill Barr's whole point. It's like, no, this does not touch on the First Amendment. You have the right to go out in public and say they stole the election. You do not have the right to conspire with a bunch of attorneys to put pressure on officials to commit crimes.
Yeah.
That isn't First Amendment. That's like saying, yeah, I can threaten to kill somebody. That's my First Amendment right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, no, that's uttering threats. I don't know what the law is in America, but I'm pretty certain you can't just say, I'm going to shoot you in the head.
Yeah, or like just say like, yeah, we should all just go assault Aaron. Like, you guys want to do that? Like, think we should do that? Like, you're conspiring to commit a crime.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
That's free speech.
Charlie Kirk actually apparently, I don't know what the context was, but apparently said that Joe Biden should be executed. Charlie Kirk said this. Little mini face. Big head, little face.
Tiny
right?
face.
Tiny face. But, you know, I'm hoping that he got a talking to from the Secret Service. They should actually do something about that. They should show that that's like, no, that's beyond the
People
pale.
have been talked to for less.
Yes.
People have been talked to for a lot less.
Much less. And this is not something that they would accept on the other foot. If when Democrats say this sort of nonsense, they rightfully get called out. There's no space in the political arena for this death talk.
Yeah.
This is demonstrative of the fact that, so coming back to the whole Pence thing, Mark Short came out on Meet the Press, and Mark Short was Mike Pence's chief of staff while he was vice president, and was also a significant part of his campaign, and is still a supporter of his, and was saying basically, because some people were saying, you know, Adam Kinzinger among them was saying that this was, you know, kind of like a half measure. He's saying it, but not saying it. He's trying to play two sides. And I kind of see that. Mark Short, who I'll admit is not the least biased person on this matter regarding, but he was pretty strong saying no. He's saying that Trump is not eligible for office and has basically committed a crime. And you know, then Chuck Todd was like, well, what do you think? And he said, do you think that Trump's conduct, to Mark Short, do you think that Trump's conduct is disqualifying him of being the president? He says, yes, I do. So we see, and again, this was the chief of staff of Mike Pence in the Trump administration.
Yeah.
This is Bill Barr saying that, no, this doesn't touch the First Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
These are representatives of the establishment of the party who, although they're out of touch with much of the base, I think that a large portion of the Republican Party does feel this way. A sizable portion of them.
Yeah.
And so what this leads me to wonder, especially given the fact that Fox News, on one hand, we see Fox News, you know, still, you know, banding about, we see, what's the guy that took over for Tucker Carlson? Jesse Waters, I think. We see Jesse Waters being like, well, I don't know how this could be a crime. He just said stuff. Right? So there's still obviously water carriers for Trump on that channel.
I just want to smash my head on the table right now.
But like, we see that there's a schism developing on the right. And that, I think, is a place to be hopeful about the health of our democracy, because, you know, I think that, and this is what Adam Kinzinger said. Remember, Adam Kinzinger was a Republican member of the House who voted against Trump's first impeachment. That was on the Ukraine call. And many people are critical of that, but he voted to impeach Trump in the most recent one alongside Liz Cheney and a number of other House Republicans. And he was saying that, you know, the Republicans kind of need to get their ass kicked one more time really, really hard in the next election. And then maybe they'll be able to realize, you know, we got to do something about this. We got to clean the party up, right? So I really feel like this is really, really hopeful. the last most on this matter, because I want to drop this matter, because I think probably our audience isn't as enthused about American politics as I am.
You know what? Honestly, I don't even think you're enthused about it. I think you're just in psychic pain. You need an outlet for all this fucking damage it's caused you.
This is a joyful thing. It recently came out. I'm gonna pull up the tweet, but it came up that Mark Milley, who's the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, so he's the highest ranking officer in the U.S. military. This is a quote from him that appeared, I don't know where, but I'm reading it off Twitter. They may try, and this is in regards to overturning the results of the election.
Oh, this was happening during the Jan 6 stuff.
Yeah, this is I think
this is a quote of him like just prior to Jan 6 or something like that.
Yeah, or around it, yeah. It might have been after. And remember, the actual use of the military is illegal. In most cases, it's called the Posse Comitatus Act. So you can't use the military for police things, technically. But that can be, I think the Insurrection Act can be used to overturn that and stuff like that. But this is what Milley says. This is in private to his officers. Quote, they may try, but they're not going to fucking succeed, Milley said of possible government takeover in conversation with his closest deputies, according to the book. You can't do this without the military. You can't do this without the CIA and the FBI. We're the guys with the guns, he said. The general, having listened to Trump spread an array of baseless conspiracy theories and false claims of fraud through the final weeks of his term, had drawn parallels with the rise of Nazism in 20th century Germany, the book said. This is a Reichstag moment, Milley told aides early January, according to the book. The gospel of the Fuhrer. So Trump as the Fuhrer.
Jeez.
That's forward.
Some strong language.
On January 6th, a mob of Trump's supporters, many of whom had gathered for the president's fiery speech outside the White House, invaded the Capitol, vandalizing the halls of government and forcing a joint session of Congress into hiding. After the deadly invasion, Milley stressed that, quote, come hell or high water, there will be a peaceful transfer of power on January 20th, one senior official said in the book. Quote, we've got an aircraft, our landing gear is stuck, we've got one engine, and we're out of fuel. We've got to land this bad boy. Milley, leading a January 14 military drill in advance of Biden's inauguration, reportedly said, here's the deal, guys. These guys are Nazis. They're Boogaloo boys. They're Proud Boys. These are the same people we fought in World War II. Everyone in this room, whether you're a cop, whether you're a soldier, we're going to stop these guys to make sure we have a peaceful transfer of power. We're going to put a ring of steel around the city, and the Nazis aren't getting in, Milley said, according to the book. So, damn.
Yeah.
Like, chills down my spine. Fucking rights. The guy who shared this on Twitter said, I got to quote this. The guy's name is Vocational Politics Appreciation Account.
Nice.
You, a stale center-left pundit, quote, no, you cannot call Trump fascist. That's historically inaccurate. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Wow, these fuckers are just like the Nazis. Let's do a national salvation junta and protect democracy. I saw all these pictures of like Milley as like, you know, all hail Milley and the National Salvation Junta. I don't remember where this happened, but it was a military junta against a takeover of the government, where they basically like. I wouldn't mind looking that up briefly, but yeah, I just got to say like, fucking rights.
Yeah, quite the speech, man. That was like the down 20 points at halftime speech.
Fucking rights. Yeah, it was. Oh yeah, buddy. Like I was like, you know, sometimes he's pissed me off a little bit. Milley, like he's been a little bit not soft. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Milley's a great guy, but sometimes he would say things about the Ukraine war where I'd be like
you could have taken a bit of a harder stance on that. Like, he didn't have to be that abstract.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I've got it here. I'm just going to read it for the audience so they know. The National Salvation Junta was a group of military officers designated to maintain the government of Portugal in April 1974 after the Carnation Revolution had overthrown the Estado Novo dictatorial regime. This junta assumed power following a communique of its president, Antonio de Spinola. Yeah, it looks like they basically served as a junta that abolished itself in order to bring democracy about. I might be mistaken, and if I am, I might just cut this whole fucking section because I don't want to look like an idiot, but it was cool. The memes were cool. The memes were great.
Yeah.
Memes were great.
I like memes. Can't complain.
Spicy memes. So I think there's one thing that you wanted to take up before we...
Yeah, we should end on something nice and wholesome. Watchers and listeners of the podcast will know that I'm a fan of... I'm a Magic the Gathering enjoyer. I like me some card games, some trading card games. And some pretty interesting news happened in the last month or so. There was a set of collectible cards released by Magic the Gathering that was Lord of the Rings themed. And they did this thing where they serialized some cards. So like comic books will do this sometimes where it's like, you know, this is like a 1 of 500. Like there's only 500 of numbered versions of this cover that are printed and you have number 430 or whatever. And so it adds value to these because of the enforced limited access, like the limited supply, I should say. And so they did this thing where they had serialized cards recently, and in the Lord of the Rings set, they had a card that was the One Ring, like from the movie, and it was the text on it was all Elvish, and it's like I think it was Elvish, and it's a serialized 1 of 1 card, and there's only, I mean, they literally have one printed. They shoved it in a fucking booster pack, and that booster pack just went somewhere, and we were just waiting for somebody to open it. It very like golden ticket, Willy Wonka, except in reality, you would never do a fucking golden ticket because like some amount of your product literally just goes in the fucking landfill by accident sometimes. Like if it gets damaged by water, or if it just gets, some kid opens a pack and doesn't realize what he has and just like loses it, or like that's probably not as common these days with Magic the Gathering. Not a lot of 10-year-olds playing Magic the Gathering these days, but you know, like you just wouldn't do that. Like a lot of people were like, this is kind of stupid. We shouldn't do that. But nevertheless, the Wizards of the Coast prevailed, and somebody opened the One Ring. They opened one of these collector booster packs, and they opened the 1 of 1 ring card. Prior to this happening, game stores were saying we're making offers on it for like $500,000, $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million. Like it went over $2 million for this 1 of 1 card. And this guy pulled it. I think he was in Ontario, actually. So
Oh, he's a Canadian guy.
yeah. I think he
Oh.
was Canadian too. So pretty based. So this guy pulled it, and you can see in the video, like he's like, his hands are shaking. He's like, oh my God, like this. I've seen videos like this before where somebody opened a card called Black Lotus from a set called Alpha, and this is like commonly known as like, oh, this is a Magic the Gathering card worth like $60,000 or whatever. And similar thing, like guy's wearing gloves and he's like, oh my God, like his hands are shaking. He's just like, you can clearly see he's distressed in some way from this happening. But the guy who opened the One Ring, same thing, his hands are shaking like crazy. But recently, it came out that he had announced to the media that he got a lawyer, and he was looking to do like a purchase through his lawyer. And of all people, he sold the card to Post Malone, who some people will know is actually really into Magic. He's been on certain YouTube channels that play Magic. He's been in promotional material. There's actually a set of Magic the Gathering cards that have been released that are like cosmetic skins with Post Malone on them. And they have like a version, like there's this card called Bolus's Citadel, and there's a renamed version that's called like Post's Citadel or something like that. And like Post Son of Yawgmoth or something like that. There's like cards where they're renamed with like Post Malone in them. Really, really cool. But he like has been a huge Magic the Gathering fan for a long time.
He's kind of got like an orcish look to him, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah. He's tatted up like some kind of shaman or sorcerer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so that recently came out. A nice wholesome little thing. This guy got to meet Post Malone. He got to make $2 million+ off of this sale. You know?
Yeah, that's big. That's life-changing, man.
Yeah, it's funny because I was watching a YouTube video that was about a year or two old that was related to Magic the Gathering content, and they were talking about cards, and like one of the cards they talked about, there's like, oh, there's this this card, the Black Lotus, which everybody knows is the most expensive Magic card ever sold, and at the time it was like $50,000, and then like 12 months later we have this card sell for $2 million, and I was like, wow, that aged like milk. Like, so much for that Black Lotus. You got this $2 million 1 of 1 ring. So yeah, I just thought that was a nice little wholesome thing to bring up.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad he's Canadian. It reduces my visceral murderous envy a little bit.
Yeah.
Not even that I'm a Magic the Gathering guy. I'm just like a covetous bastard with money. You know what I mean? I just want them $2 million. Like I don't even need to meet Post Malone. I don't give a shit. I'll send it to him in the mail. You know?
Yeah.
Send me the grip.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and I think it also
wholesome
is
stuff. Good wholesome.
Very
stuff.
wholesome. Yeah, very wholesome murderous rage you got there, Aaron. Very nice. I love it. But I do like that. It's definitely going down in history in terms of collectible history. You know, going forward, when people look up collectibles being sold, like now Magic the Gathering is going to be a lot higher on that list compared to where it was before, which was like, oh, okay, yeah, $60,000, whatever. But now it's like 2 million, baby. Like we're up there. We're getting up there.
That's like insane, man.
That's a lot. Like there have been like baseball cards that have sold for more than that, believe it or not.
I believe that. I believe that.
But $2 million for a Magic
Like
card
a
is pretty
rookie Mickey
nuts.
Mantle or
or some misprint, like very rare baseball card. But
holy shit.
what's that? What is it?
Highest price paid. I was right. I don't know if it's a rookie card, but it's a Mickey Mantle card. 12,600,000.
Sheesh, that's grip for you right there.
That was August 28th, 2022. That was sold.
That's like 6 1 rings.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But still, we're on the map.
Yeah,
Fellow MTG nerds, we're on the map.
we out here.
Let's go.
Because these are all sport carding trades, the most expensive sport cards.
Well, those are going to be the most expensive card.
Yeah. Well, but it's got a list that includes like this one beats like the Kobe Bryant limited, like is Wayne Gretzky's is more valuable from 79. There's a LeBron James one that's 2.4 million. Tom Brady 2.2, and then Kobe Bryant's 2 flat. So it's between Tom Brady and Kobe Bryant. What if Buddy just like holds on to it for 5 years and sells it for like 4 million, like coming off it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that fucker made a profit.
So then it's not just the One Ring, but it's the One Ring autographed by Post Malone.
Oh yeah.
Now that, I wonder if it would increase or decrease.
I think it
the
might
value.
decrease
It
the
might
value.
decrease a little bit.
Why'd you wreck the fucking card,
Yeah, all
dude?
the Lord of the Rings nerds like, who the fuck is Post Malone? Well, damn, that's a good place for us to cut it off, I think. So thank you so much for joining us this episode. If you have any questions, critiques, or citations we desperately needed, please leave them in the comments below. And if you like this kind of content, leave us a like, subscribe. We are here every week. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Welcome to the fucking podcast.